says we're live.
Yeah, lies.
Hello, San Francisco. Who remembers that line?
And we have John Van Stry in with us today.
And we are
Buy my book. Buy my book.
John. For those of you who don't know, John is a very successful indie author, but this is his first ever traditionally published, and he's a little nervous.
Just a little.
This is it's a good book.
Yeah.
I beat y'all and got an advance copy. It's a really good book.
I beat you because I got the beta reading.
So let's get John up there so that Bain will go ooh and keep him. I think you're at 66 now.
I'm at 66 in hard science fiction. I figured that's where I was just about 10 minutes ago. When I left the house, it had just broken into the top 100. That was about 2 hours ago in hard sci-fi. It's moved up to about 12,000, I think, overall. I'll have to see how it goes. I mean, I've asked all my readers, all my fans. The biggest problem comes down to is because it's pre-order. It used to be when a book went live, all your pre-orders hit the sales queue on that day and gave you a huge bump. They kind of changed that because people were taking advantage of it. And this book has been in pre-order for a while. So I don't really know if that adds or anything to the velocity of it going up through the ranks, because there is a velocity factor. There's a whole bunch of stuff. You begin to get a feel for how it works after a while.
But this is the first day, so
Yeah, it is the first day. But the thing is, because it's been a pre-order, it's got the category.
Number 3 new release in hard science fiction.
Whoa, cool. Awesome. The other thing is Bain, I need to talk to them about the categories. I probably need to call someone when I get home if I can. Because you can get extra categories. And it's always good to find a category that fits your book, but is a smaller category, so you can get that orange tag right away. And then everybody sees the orange tag across all the categories,
Yep.
And it helps with sales.
Well, yes.
And the audiobook hit today, too. The audiobook came.
Oh, same time?
damn.
Well done.
They were working on the audiobook. I got calls for about 2 months ago from the voice actor about some questions and things. And I knew they were doing it because they told me they were. I didn't know when it was going to hit. They never told me when. And the tag for the audiobook went up yesterday, and that it's going to be released today. So the audiobook's out there too.
Outstanding.
Yes.
Well done. Well, in other news, thanks to a whole bunch of family, friends, fans, and quite honestly, strangers on the internet, I have paid all of my expert witnesses. I have paid for their hotel rooms.
I was going to say, otherwise you're going to stacking 4 guys in the same room.
And everything, all the debt I got into trying to solve this thing on my own has been paid off. So thanks, guys. We are just waiting. Well, tomorrow I have to go to the probation office.
Yeah.
And do all that happy horse shit. Oh, look, it's 3 minutes, 21 seconds. Anyway, the trial will be in 89th District Court in Wichita Falls on December 20th at 9 a.m. Please understand the judge is very old-fashioned. Nothing that makes noise. Turn off your cell phone before you go in there. If you're going to attend, and please do.
So no booing, hissing, or anything else.
And
Damn it.
where
Rotten
at least-
tomatoes allowed?
what?
Rotten tomatoes?
No. We're at least business casual. No mini skirts, no shorts, and he hates flip-flops. So don't wear flip-flops. This is a bench trial because I'm not stupid.
It's also a bench trial because it's now after Election Day.
Yeah, it's not. Well, we won't go there.
Yeah.
Also, there is a local reporter who found out about the crowdfunding and has decided this is an interesting article or interesting story and is doing another story. This, for those of you who are keeping up, there was a Substack that got a hold of this and was talking about it and said that the first article was 400 pages of character assassin, or 400 words of character assassination of me before they got to the actual meat of the case. Same reporter. She's been calling my friends.
Yep.
So if you get a call from Trish Choate, she's a reporter, and I'll leave it at that.
Oh, I just got your text, John.
Go to Florida. Lots of people wear flip flops, and California year
It's
round. Drives me
Texas.
up the wall.
It's Texas.
Yeah.
It's likely 72 degrees on the 20th of December.
Or it may be 12 degrees.
Or maybe
It
12.
was 72 yesterday at our house.
Wasn't that lovely?
It was
it's beautiful
81
out.
here. It's trying to get to 60 today.
Trying. I'm not sure it's going to make it today.
It'll hit the 60s where we are, but we're getting rain
Julian,
soon.
no, you do not look good in a mini skirt and a crop top. No. I hope you're actually, Julian's mother's in the hospital. I hope she's doing better, Julian.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, apparently had a heart attack.
Ooh.
Oh, dear.
Yeah.
Oh, dear. Oh, dear. So, anyway, John, tell us about your story.
Yes.
You need to buy this book.
All right. In some ways, it's a slightly dystopian future because it takes place several hundred years from now, and it does start in the United States. It technically starts, I guess, in New Mexico. The character is just got out of college. He's got his engineering cert to be an engineer on a ship. Now, they have discovered gravity as far as how to make it work, how everything about it. So gravity drives, constant gravity, gravity plates, all that stuff exists. But faster than light drive has not yet been discovered. So that, along with nuclear power, fusion power, which is coming up, a lot of people have left Earth and colonized just about every place they could think of. A lot of the asteroids and the asteroid belts have been moved around because it's been over 100 years now that people have been leaving and doing this stuff. So anything you can think of is out there. All the planets, to some extent or another, have been colonized. Like on Venus, they have floating cities and all that. On Mars, they have surface cities, but they're slowly working to get an atmosphere and all the other stuff they need to do there. So there's a lot of this.
So it's inside the solar system.
Yeah.
Just inside the
it's
solar
near
system.
world.
Okay.
Near space.
Near space. Yeah.
That's the genre. Alan Steele is really good in that. He actually agreed to review the book. I can't wait to see what he says. Oh man, I love Alan Steele. So this guy, he's not your best student because he had to work. Earth is like one government, and you have your three classes. You have the dolers, who do not work for a living, but they're the big voting blocks. They make up about 70% of the population. You have the proles. These are the people who actually work for a living. They're the middle class. They do all the work. They get shit on a lot. Then you have the elites, or the elites, the like 0.1% of the population who control everything. They own most of the government, the senators and stuff, the Earth Gov senators. And
This feels familiar.
Yes, doesn't it though? So our hero, Dave Walker, he's from the Texas district in the North American whatever section. He's gone to college to get the certificate. It was made clear to him that he should do something better with his life than what he was doing, and you'll find out about that as the story goes on. Not the best student, so all he ends up with his genius half-brother, basically, or stepbrother, gets him a shot on what's effectively a tramp steamer because his stepdad, who he has never met in his life, wants him dead because he has become, as they say in the Hollows, inconvenient. So he's got to get while the getting is good. So he signs up on this thing called the Iowa Hill. It's an old-style freighter. It's based off of like a Panamax freight ship in the world today. And these people, this is like, for a lot of these people, this is kind of like the end of the line as far as you work on a tramp steamer because you can't get a decent job anywhere else. And these places, this ship goes to the places that most of the big companies don't want to go to, sometimes the places that nobody wants to go to. And
Which still need services.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I call it like your blue highways and your gray highways.
Okay.
I don't know how many people are familiar with the term blue highways. If you open up an old style paper map, you will see blue lines. Those are blue highways. And they follow a different route than the interstates or the main highways. They go through all the towns. And there are a lot of off the track kind of places that don't maybe have the services or this being serviced by the big companies like the others. The gray highways are, of course, the places to gray habs or hidden habs or black habs. Gray habs are usually hiding from someone, kind of semi whatever. The black habs, they're really hiding someone because a lot of those guys are pirates. Piracy exists. The solar system is huge. The Navy can't be everywhere, and the Earth Navy really doesn't care about anything other than Earth. Some of the other navies do care more. So we follow Dave as he is going through and learning this new world because he wanted to get off of Earth more than anything else. Problem is his past is like catching up with him. Some of that is because his mother was an Ely who ran off to find herself. And after she found herself, she realized that no, she didn't want to live with a prole or help raise the child she had with him, and she just abandoned them when he was about 4. So he doesn't remember his mom. He hates Elys with a passion because of the fact that his mom abandoned him. Her mom makes Morgan Fairchild look, is it the Fairchild family or the Vanderbilt, makes them look poor. I mean, we're talking about somebody who their family has trillions. But here's the interesting thing, because everything is computerized. Whenever he gets in trouble and it goes into court, the computers say he's an elite because of who his mom is.
Bloodline.
And, if you're an elite and you kill a dollar, they just really won't say anything. Maybe they'll look the other way. If you kill the prole, you'll get a harsh talking to. But the laws really don't apply. So he kind of takes a little advantage of this as he's a young man, as a kid growing up.
A little advantage.
Just a little advantage. And you'll learn about it as a story. I don't really want to spoil the surprise. But he grew up in a quad, in a rough area with a lot of gang activity and everything else. His father's just a technician. He works at Boca Chica Spaceport.
Boca Chica.
Funny how that's showing up a lot lately.
Isn't it though?
Hey, I turned Holloman into a spaceport as well, but that's the ass end of the universe kind of a spaceport.
Yeah.
Like Holloman.
Yes.
So anyway, that's like the beginning of the story as we find out what this person or what happens to Dave and the problems he has to deal with and the characters he meets along the way.
One of the things I like about it is the fact that your hero isn't perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really, really appreciate the fact that your hero isn't perfect. There's a lot of stories recently with a perfect hero, and oh my God, those are nauseating.
Yeah.
It's the old, there's the whole thing, feet of clay and all that stuff. And I wouldn't say this guy has necessarily feet of clay. He's a bit of a Heinlandian hero. He knows how to do the things he knows how to do, and he knows how to do them well. And he knows how to survive. And when push comes to shove, he's willing to do what he has to do.
Jesse's got a good point. He says that the story feels a lot like the later Heinlein Juvies if they grew up.
Yeah, that's a good
point.
I was a big Heinlein fan. I mean, Heinlein is why I went to engineering school. Why I went into the service. I mean, I wanted to be an astronaut, and that was the route to take. And Heinlein really had a lot to do with that. Bringing those things up.
Heinlein, he did that for a lot of people.
Yeah.
He did that for a lot of people. Swear to God, most of science fiction these days, in one way or another, owes a debt of gratitude to.
I did not say Pinelandian.
Yeah. Hey.
Now that I fixed the mic.
The People's Republic of Pineland. Free the People's Republic of Pineland.
I'm not touching the mic, Cedar. I stopped.
The People's Republic, Democratic Republic of Pineland.
But that's it's one of the things when I grew up. I remember all these people would get down on the Heinlein heroes because, these people can do this and they can do that and they can do all these things. And I'd look at them and go, well, I can do all those things. I mean, I went to engineering school. I worked on, stuff for my parents growing up and friends of the family. Mm-hmm. I've worked. And when I got out of school, because of some of the industries I worked in, they were hit or miss, and you'd be laid off. Well, I worked as a plumber while I was laid off. I worked as a carpenter. You do what you got to do.
That's not fair. Yeah.
RK, you ought to know where Pineland is. North Carolina.
Seriously? RK, seriously, please.
Uh,
For those of you who don't know, and honestly, with this crowd, very few, Pineland is the fictional country that Robin Sage, which is the pretty much the graduation ceremony for Special Forces. Pineland is 15 counties in North Carolina, and the Special Forces in school, they're told that Pineland has been overthrown, and they are sent into these 15 counties of Pineland to organize the resistance. And so you've got all these Special Forces kiddies running around, and then the 82nd Airborne is the bad guys.
I knew somebody who did Op 4 in Pineland one year.
That's everybody. The Boy Scouts, Boy Scout troops are frequently the who the Special Forces kiddies have to train.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's, they bring in people playing Department of State.
Yeah.
And I'm here to tell you, or so I've been told, the State Department during Operation Robin Sage ain't your friends.
Yeah. And Krasnovia is the
bad
oppressor.
No,
They are the bad guys.
no. Krasnovia is a whole different kettle of fish. Krasnovia is National Training Center out on the West Coast.
Well, it depends on which game you're playing.
In
Because-
Robin Sage, Pineland, the Pineland Defense Forces are the bad guys, and the Pineland Resistance are the good guys.
We've also played that in the Navy, where you have Krasnovia versus Pineland.
Oh,
Yeah. So it goes across. It goes across the military lines.
your troopies, your Special Forces kiddies will be trying to organize the Boy Scouts, the Pineland Resistance Force. And the State Department guys, if you tell them what you're doing, will tell the Pineland Defense Force.
Yeah. And also, the law enforcement gets a free bottle for every one of the Green Beret kiddies they capture.
Yes.
Yep. That sounds about right.
Yeah, you get I forget what the money's called, but there's Pineland dollars.
Yeah.
And it used to be when they first started, the locals are now in on it.
Oh yeah.
The locals are big in on it. They're all in. The locals have more fun than anybody else does.
Well, hell, half the locals are retired Green Beret
No kidding.
and our other special forces units.
And they actually start taking the Pineland money at the convenience stores.
Yeah. Yeah, most of us are playing the game Larry started. Now, some of us were playing it long before Larry ever started it.
No comment.
Well, it's like the black helicopters thing.
Oh,
I love the black helicopters thing because it's kind of true. But people don't realize, because I lived up in Oregon where all the black helicopter stuff comes from. Oregon, Seattle. Well, most of it started there, the whole thing. And I've seen the black helicopters because that region, and I used to know a guy who flew the black helicopters,
Yeah.
is very much like Eastern Europe.
Okay.
So the people who have to penetrate there to drop off spies and equipment and stuff, and they used to fly stuff in there in the Cold War. They'd have helicopter crews go in there. So they have to learn to fly the terrain, and they get trained in Oregon. And one of the training routes went right over my house.
Yep.
And you'd see them sometimes and hear them sometimes going overhead. And they're in these all painted Black Hawks and stuff. And I was in the military. I know how these guys are. You're in a black helicopter that is hard to see. It's night. It's quiet. It's got all the Flieger gear, in the world.
Yeah.
So if you're cruising by some hot chick's house and she's out there doing something with the shades open, come on. It's the Air Force. They're going to stop. They're going to look.
Yep.
And these guys, and they go cruising over Portland sometimes and things. And so that's where the whole thing really came from. And I'm sure there were a lot of guys in the Air Force who, being guys in the Air Force, said, hey, let's go play some tricks on these people to stir them up, because there are a lot of wackos in Portland.
And they also do it down in Florida. Most of the DEA birds back in the 70s and 80s were also painted black because they were doing night surveillance.
John's here and Jim's here, so I've got a question. And I'm fixing to go hit a cat, spin it, and throw it in the mess. Army just chose Bell's new tilt rotor to replace the Black Hawk. Thoughts?
I haven't seen it yet. I really haven't seen it yet. And I don't know anybody who works at Bell anymore, so I can't even call
I
up
think
and
it's
ask.
the
about it.
V180 or 280 Valor.
Yeah,
I saw some of the development stuff about 10 years ago, and it looked good then. I don't know how it's doing now, though.
I don't either. I've lost touch with that particular world. It's supposed to be much faster, first of all.
Yeah, I heard it's a lot faster, too.
But the question, once again, is reliability.
But things are never reliable when they first come out.
Yeah,
Because they still got so many bugs to be shaken out of them.
Well, it's the proverbial golden BB bird.
Yeah.
One BB in the right place to kick.
Well,
Plus the fact that right now DOD is fighting a huge war with counterfeit parts.
What?
Including on brand new aircraft.
Because they're allowing companies to second source out to China.
Yeah.
It used to be you weren't allowed to source any parts anywhere but in the US. Well, you source to China, and China is real big on, oh, yeah, we'll give you what you want. And they're making a bunch of crap and shipping it out the door because they're corrupt. Corruption is a way of life in China.
And this impacts not only the military. Right now, there are 9 F-35 sitting in Fort Worth that can't be moved because they potentially have a counterfeit part on them. Brand new.
Seriously?
Yeah, this also rolls over in the commercial world and airline parts for GA, General Aviation. We had a problem with it in the P3s where the line was shut down in the 60s. They only built 10% spare parts. We're still flying an airplane 40, 50 years later that we need parts for. You go on the quote aftermarket for them, and it may or may not be a Chinesium pot metal part, including landing gear parts.
Yeah. When I worked for Grumman and a few other places, I mean, we really did a lot. And, quality and QA and test and all that, we used to look into this crap constantly. We had groups that did it. Even when I worked in the medical field, I was involved with that, making sure that the parts we got were the parts we ordered, and there was tests, and everything was tested. But because of Microsoft and a lot of the Harvard and Yale grads, they're like, oh, quality, we don't need that. Test, we don't need that. We'll just do agile for everything, and just hand wave him at it. They're a cargo cult. We'll do a few things like everyone used to. We'll dance around the airplane, and things will magically appear. It's what we've become.
Sean, the counterfeit problem is both sides.
Sorry.
It's both on the electronic side and the physical parts side.
Oh God, agile. What's agile for those of us that
Agile is the biggest scam that was ever pushed onto software.
Yes.
It's these people, and I remember when it came out, we all laughed at it, in the software industry, because basically Agile says if you do these things, you'll make a quality part or quality product. Most of Agile is shit.
Yeah.
The morning scram is the stupidest freaking thing in the world. No, none of that. No, if you don't know what your people are doing, you need to be fired and replaced with somebody who knows how to manage. And then there's the whole thing about let the programmers choose what they're going to work on. No, you don't let them do that because everybody goes for the easy shit first so they look good. And then the hard stuff, the stuff that, is the hardest and the most involved, and you need to know immediately how long it's going to take. And if you can do it, that gets done last.
Yep.
And then it just gets, a bum rush at it to get it done as quickly as possible, put it out, and so suddenly your program doesn't work. I could take any company that's doing Agile. You put me in charge of them for a year, and I guarantee you will have a far better product with less people at the end of that year, and your shit won't break.
Yeah.
And it'll cost you less.
Sir Brass makes an excellent point. Agile is Six Sigma for software.
I have no idea what you just said. I have rashes on my knuckles from dragging on the carpet.
Six Sigma, like 666.
Six Sigma is the same version except on the hardware and production side.
It's supposed to be 9 Sigma, but yeah.
Yeah, it's supposed to be 9 Sigma. They lost 3 of them somewhere. Chinesium pot metal. Why did I repeat myself? Well, probably the classic case of Chinese pot metal was on a China Airlines 747 that landed in, I believe it was Amsterdam, with the #1 engine tied down, the rotors, stators tied down with a cargo strap because the engine broke.
That seems suboptimal to me.
And they flew it without fixing it
China,
with passengers on board.
when I was working for Grumman, they told us the story. China bought a 707 because China wanted to make airplanes. So they bought a 707 and they took it apart.
Yeah.
And they replicated every single part and they built 3 brand new 707s. And as it went down the runway and pulled up, the wings came off, it hit the ground and exploded.
Yep.
Because they don't understand strength of materials.
Yeah.
You know, the Chinese engineers are really bad. That's why they have skyscrapers that fall over, a high-speed bullet train that went off the tracks, killed pretty much everyone. So they just went up there, dug a hole, pushed all the bodies in the train into it, covered it up. A rocket booster for one of their big Long March rockets landed in a village, killed everybody.
Yeah.
You know, engineering in China are like, you know, no, they're not even on the same
So
continent.
what I'm hearing is between a Chinese engineer and an Afghan goat herd with a charcoal fire and a donkey, you'll take the Afghan goat herd first.
Yes.
Every time.
Yes.
Every time.
Everybody talks
You
about
didn't even slow down. You didn't even pause on that.
everybody talks about the Russians being bad. The Russians at least built stuff where it was going to get in the air.
Yeah, the Russian aerospace is pretty good.
The classic example was the MiG-25 that Malenko gave us back in the 70s. When we took it apart, where the U.S. built with titanium, the Russians built with stainless steel.
Okay.
That was one heavy son of a bitch of an airplane.
And even had rust in places.
Yeah. It was rusty, and the engine was a one-way engine.
Aren't most of them one-way engines?
No. Most U.S. aircraft or aircraft designed in the free world, so to speak, are designed to get you there and back. The MiG-25,
Oh,
it was designed to make an intercept, and if you got back, that was good.
But
One
there was
way.
some. But remember did you hear about the thing with the girl's voice?
Yeah.
This shocked the hell out of the guy because someone that realized a long time ago that in a high stretch situation, if you want to get attention of a male pilot, you have a little girl's voice.
Yeah.
It's hardwired in that when they hear a little girl's voice, it's like your child. So nobody knew this was in the MiG-25, including the pilots. When he got to emergency fuel, a little girl's voice came on the headset, pre-recorded message telling him he had emergency fuel and he had to land now.
Yeah.
And I remember him talking about that. Like, none of us knew that was there. They never told us about it.
And he landed in Hokkaido the day before the emperor was supposed to be there. And it was filmed.
okay.
Because there was a Japanese cameraman who was checking to make sure he could get everything right and smooth.
Oh,
And you see it track this airplane coming in, and then all of a sudden you realize it's got a star on the back, and the camera jiggles, and it catches back up.
so
Well, we did give him the airplane back.
One box at a time.
No, we took it apart, put it back together, gave it back to him in one piece.
Oh, I thought I gave it back to him in pieces.
No.
I would have.
Oh, Kermit, you're exactly right. Stainless steel hose clamps on a mirror. They worked mostly. Yeah, stainless steel hose clamps on the space station. Same thing you can go down here to auto parts store and get.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
How to work around some of the Midwest management. Management's, yeah. Yeah, John, you're exactly right. The other classic case is I think it was a B-29, either B-17 or B-29. I think it was a B-17 that landed in Russia. And
I heard about this.
yeah, they told him, said, you will build that airplane. So they disassembled it, copied it, down to the bullet holes and patches.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Yep. And that was their frontline bomber for a number of years. So about the game on Saturday. Yeah, well, the Navy's going to kick ass.
Air Force, I have no dog in this fight. I don't care.
Everybody knows that the Navy was rooting for Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah, no, you're right, Greg. It was a B-29, became the Tu-4. Yep.
My dad flew on the B-29.
It did have the Russian engines, however.
Yeah, the B-29 engines, they were very powerful and they were experimental. A lot of people don't realize, and throughout the entire war, they were experimental.
Yeah.
If you lost an engine on takeoff, you were crashing.
Yep, 3350s.
Period.
Well,
And-
the problem was, having talked to a couple of guys that were in 505 flying out of Saipan and Tinian, they were so heavy coming off the ground that they fell off the end of the island.
Yeah, because they had all the full fuel load and a full bomb load.
Yeah.
That's a lot of weight.
And they were not able to really start a climb profile until they got to Iwo Jima,
They had to burn off the fuel.
which was 750 miles at 200 feet off the water.
Yeah.
With a B-29.
My dad loved the B-29. My dad was a gunnery instructor. He ended up, because my dad could teach anyone how to shoot. And so the Army Air Corps said, you're teaching people how to shoot. At one point, he wanted to join the paratroopers because he wanted to get into the war. And his commanding officer said, Bob, you're not going anywhere. We need you here.
Yeah.
Because he could teach anyone to shoot. So he taught a lot of the B-17 crews and the 24 crews and the 29. When he got to the 29th, they finally said, okay, we're going to let you go. We're going to let you go to Japan.
Yeah.
And they taxi out to the runway, and they're just about to run the engines up, and a thing comes over the radios. All planes taxi back to your hangars. They just dropped the first atomic bomb on Hiroshima. A week later, my dad was out of the Army Air Corps.
Yeah. Well,
he was pissed. He never got to go into the war. That's why he joined.
Gifted instructors are don't lose those guys.
Yeah, my dad taught me how to shoot. Dad could teach anybody how to shoot.
Gifted instructors are.
Well, that happened to my dad in the First World War. He never got out of Louisiana
Because Carthaginian.
because he was too good a shot because he'd grown up hunting for food when he was a kid.
The first Punic War we're talking about here, kids.
Not quite. So he ended up at Camp Beauregard in Louisiana teaching people how to shoot pistols and rifles for the entire First World War.
My father was taught to shoot when he was like, I don't remember if it was like 10 or 12, somewhere around then, by the U.S. Army. Right? Because after World War I, they had all these bases. And this is in New York City, mind you. They had a base in New York City. And you could ship your kids off to the military for the summer, so you didn't have to pay to feed them. It was very poor. My dad grew up in a cold water flat.
Yeah.
And so my dad and his cousin, who was his best friend, they got shipped off. And you've got these kids marching around with these 303 Lee Enfields. And that's what my dad learned to shoot on, a gun that was bigger than him at the time and probably weighed just as much.
Yeah.
And they turned him into a marksman when he was like 12.
Yep. Yeah, Carlton, that's a good point. The quote unquote U.S. flyers that immigrated to Russia. Nah, they didn't immigrate. They were were captured. Same thing happened in Korea. The number of people that we lost that ended up in Russia because of what they knew. Some of that actually continued through to Vietnam. One of the guys that went missing from Lima Site 85 was captured, and from what the family has been able to find out and some other folks have dug into it, he probably got shipped to Russia because he was a radar expert.
Speaking of getting shipped off to places, I'm loving the idiots on Twitter getting beclowned. The latest one that makes me giggle is the one schmuck who announced that they were going to support NASA wholeheartedly. They're dropping Elon's space program to support NASA wholeheartedly because they wouldn't support anybody who hired Nazis.
No.
Somebody didn't study history.
Yeah.
Used to be Operation Paperclip was taught in U.S. schools.
Yeah.
But for those of you who don't know, NASA got kickstarted, and I'm sure these gentlemen, they know more about it than I do, and will correct me. NASA got kickstarted and got its boost because they snatched a hold of every Nazi rocket scientist they could find.
Yeah, Werner von Braun, among others.
Yep.
Oh, that's interesting, Greg. Your grandfather probably knew my cousin at Fort Polk.
No.
Because my cousin was the one that set up Tiger Village. Yeah. Operation Paperclip. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Walk into any conference room in Houston, yell, "Akung," and see
Akung.
how many geriatrics pop to their feet.
If I
Yeah.
remember correctly, they shipped them in via Mexico, and they all took like the citizen thing in, like, was it New Mexico?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
Richard,
remember
you're right. Von Braun and Al didn't care as long as they got to shoot things.
Launch their rockets. That's all they
Yeah.
wanted. Whoever paid them, they were there.
It's like,
Our Nazi scientists were better than theirs. Yeah.
Well, what's,
Yeah.
what's
We got them out before the Russians got a hold of them.
what's that line in that movie? So, you know, the Russians took their Nazi scientists and built a camera, and then they
Yeah.
took a rocket that your Nazi scientist built, and they took a film that Britain's Nazi scientist built, and they
Yeah.
put them all together.
Yeah. Yeah. Trained in the buildings used to test V2s in. Yep.
the
The El Paso trolley. Yep. That's what it was called. Richard, you're old if you remember that one.
It's not the right stuff, actually. It's I Station Zebra.
Yeah.
It's a line from I
that was
Station
a hell of
Zebra.
a.
Yeah.
I
That
never
was a
saw
great
the. I never saw the movie. That was a hell of a book.
I like
Yeah,
the
the
fact that
movie's good,
Ernest
too.
Borgnine plays the bad guy.
Yeah.
He plays the bad guy in the movie.
Oh,
And that made it great. I bet he loved it because he gets to play a bad guy for
Yeah.
a change.
What's funny is Ernest Borgnine was actually an enlisted sailor in World War II.
Yeah.
in that generation, most of them were.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, you had General Doolittle.
Well,
not
when he
Doolittle,
James Stewart,
General Stewart.
Yeah.
he said it was a lot of fun when he got to play McHale's Navy. He said, "I got to be an officer,"
Lee
and
Marvin.
he knew how to run the boat.
Lee Marvin. You know, his tombstone reflects the fact that he was a Marine, not that
Yeah.
he was an actor.
Well, I used to do when actors would die, I would do a little thing on my blog, and I always General Doolittle was his World War II service and retired as brigadier general. Oh, and he did some acting on the side.
Yeah.
That's why I always put that in there.
Yeah.
Because honestly, the fact that they were warriors is much more important to me than the fact they did some movies.
Well, and Winkle Red, that's a good point. The number of Germans in prison camps in the state of Texas
Oh, no kidding.
was rather interesting, and the number that didn't go back.
Yeah, they
Oh.
petitioned to stay because
Yeah.
they were working on the farms here and stuff, or they disappeared.
There were a lot of them that when they were told
and got married.
they were told they're being repatriated, they did a legger.
My dad told me about that because he was stationed. I don't remember if it was Texas or it was somewhere a bit to the west of here as a train, where he was training and stuff, and talking about how, when the war ended, a lot of them did not want to go home. They wanted to stay here because they'd become part of the community.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
Springfield, Colorado, same way.
Well,
That was a prison camp, World War II.
The ones here didn't really have big walls. It's like, where are you going to go?
Yeah.
And there were down around Fredericksburg, down the hill country, there
Yeah.
were a lot of them that, and like John said, they became part of the community
Yeah.
because they worked. They would leave the prison camp and go work.
And it was German communities.
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. And they still spoke German in the hill country at the
They
time.
still do.
They still do now. And there were a lot of them.
You could say Fredericksburg in that area is fairly successful. Yes.
There were a lot of them that they were told, the war is over. You are going home. They went, no, we're not. Out the door. And the locals were hiding them.
Tom says, not a lot volunteered to stay in North Dakota. Funny that. When snow is ass deep to a tall giraffe, no.
Well, you know what they say, though? There's a woman behind every tree in North Dakota.
There are no trees in North Dakota.
Yeah.
Somebody I know fell for that. They were a Missileer when they got there, and they called me and said, "Do you know there's no trees in North Dakota?" I said, "Yeah, I thought everybody knew that."
Everybody knows that.
Same brutal weather, but none of the scenery.
No, there were a lot of Germans, German POWs. They'd been making money.
Yeah.
Because Texans were, hey, you're working, I'm going to pay you. The
Yeah.
Department of War is going, wait a minute. And it's like, shut up, boy, we're paying him. You are now going back to Germany. Where the hell did he go?
Yeah.
I haven't seen him.
Yeah.
Hey, Mary's your daughter. Nope, that's Frank.
Yeah. That was the other one. Yeah.
That's Frank. Frank's got a German accent. We don't care.
So does my daughter.
Yeah, there's been a long-standing Cold War with the Southern Dakotas. It's just cold up there. Just forget it. That's it.
Oh,
Used as punishment assignment. You know something's up.
that's like Fort Wainwright in Alaska.
Yeah.
If you're in the Army and you monumentally screw the pooch, worse than being assigned to Huachuca. Sorry, Tom. You went assigned to Fort Wainwright to count sled dog turds.
South Dakota and Smart Dakota.
Minot's kind of an Air Force one, but it's not the worst. There are worse places than Minot.
Yeah, Thule.
Thule and what you call it, Diego Garcia.
Diego wasn't bad.
You can't go swimming.
What?
I was told you can't go swimming Diego Garcia because of the sharks.
Oh, bullshit.
Yeah, that's what they told everybody in the Air Force. You don't want to go to Diego Garcia either.
There was one 6-foot barracuda that we used to feed off the back of the desalinization barge. And he'd swim out to the swim platform with you.
Punishment in the Air Force was only getting basic cable. Ouch.
Yeah.
You only have maid service 3 days of the week.
Rick, I never saw a shark in the lagoon out there. Hey, the beer was beer. Who cared what was in it?
You weren't in Oklahoma back in the 80s because beer ain't beer.
Near beer.
Yeah, Oklahoma had 3.2. And that was a disappointment in a can. I'm here to tell you. Got to Fort Sill and got a beer. It's like, what the hell? Did you at least water the horse where you ran it through the kidneys?
Oh, that was primo. Oh,
I just remember
nasty shit out of Hawaii.
I was in Wichita, Kansas at McConnell for a couple of months. And back then, you couldn't basically get a drink unless you had a drinking card.
Yeah.
You had to have a card from a club so you could drink alcohol. So I went into this really nice place when I was on leave.
Communist happy horseshit is this?
Because it was like a dry state or something,
Yeah.
partially dry. I wanted a good meal, and damn it, I wanted some alcohol. And I was over 21 at the time, so I got a card from the club. You pay some money, they give you a card, and you can show it because all the clubs honor each other's cards.
Yeah.
Well, one of the guys I knew who was in my flight at the time, he was from there, and he wasn't 21 yet. And when I was leaving, he goes, "Can I have the card?" Yep. Sure. And I gave it to him. So now he could go around and drink wherever he wanted to.
Oh, yes, the military.
But it was a card from it was a like a neon orange card and had the name of the club and had my name and some information on it.
Yeah.
And they just penciled it in and go, "There you go." Oh, that's my phone. Let me go kill that. I'll be right back.
Shoot it. Put it out of its misery. Oh, speaking of which,
Uh-oh.
my shooting something comment, North Texas Troublemakers about the Jumanji box got to be a violation of community standards.
Are you a nice gulag?
Yes.
Nice gulag. Bastards.
Sorry, folks.
That's
A Radler, half German wheat and half grapefruit soda. Yuck.
I've heard of it. I don't want to taste it. I'm not a big beer fan myself. When I do drink beer, I would tend to go for the darker ones.
Beer is good if you get a good one, but there are so many horse piss beers out there.
Beer and wine are things I never really developed a taste for. It's like I like hard cider. I used to make it when I was in high school, but I'm more of I drink rye. I drink Irish whiskeys. That's what I tend to drink.
Yeah.
I used to drink Scotch and Irish, but I've thanks to Tom Rogdeby, I've graduated bourbons, and
it's my heritage.
Yeah.
I have to.
Beer and lemonade. Ugh.
It is sometimes,
shady.
but usually it would be a lot of the hand brew ones because I used to know a lot of brewers. And, these guys, they just never stopped making stuff. And I used to drink a lot of their dark beers, these guys who I knew make. When I worked for Grumman Aerospace, everybody at Grumman Aerospace just about made beer. Then I went to work for General Dynamics, and everybody at General Dynamics made wine. Don't ask me. I never figured it out. I don't get it. One of the guys I worked with actually got written up in one of the big wine magazines. And every vineyard now in the country uses his fruiting zone method because he came up with a fruiting zone method that would allow you to get twice as many grapes. And so all the machines had to be changed because the way they set vineyards up and everything.
Yeah.
It's for the machine. So they had to change the machines because he figured out a way, being an engineer, to do this more economically because he only had 6 acres of vines and he wanted to get more fruit out of it.
Engineer
doing
Engineer.
wine.
Engineer.
Board engineers at that.
No, shandy. My shandy I drank in Africa. Ew.
Yeah.
Shan-
Tom, Norwegian, Irish, and German ancestors fought each other, fought everyone else, or invaded Poland when they got to drinking. Cedar says moved away from the meadery.
Actually, Texas has a meadery popped up that came across my feed the other day. It's actually winning some awards. So
Yeah.
once everything's all over and done with, on the 21st, I'm gonna have to get some.
Yeah, unfortunately,
Bill's
prohibition.
going to do another mead, bourbon barrel mead.
Oh,
Yeah, unfortunately, prohibition really wiped out a lot of these small
no kidding.
industries and stuff because you had a lot of small brewers who made, hard cider, mead, all these
Yeah.
things who got wiped out. I mean, like, it was funny. Henry Weinhardt's, which now, of course, is owned by Bud. They bought him up about 20 years ago. They
Yeah.
got through prohibition by doing root beer. And back when I was living in Oregon at one point, somebody had the bright idea who worked for Henry Weinhardt. Hey, let's put our root beer out again. So you have a distillery that's making root beer now as well. And they sold so damn much of it because
Yeah.
it's one of the best root beers I ever had because it was being made the way they made root beer in the past.
Actually made the first root beers.
They were brewing it.
Well, it's like ginger beer. There for a long time, ginger beer and ginger ale are two different things. Ginger beer is typically stronger and hotter and a little warmer. Depending.
Bartles and James is coming back. Oh my God, Tom. No, say it ain't so.
Well, that's a bunch of high schoolers. They're screwed.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it's not. It's Budweiser that's making them now, and I don't know if they're still brewing them. So, Brandon.
Bartles and James?
No, the root beer.
Oh,
I don't know if they're still brewing it. I don't know if they're making it by a more simple process because that brewery was torn down and they moved everything to the brewery in California, the big Budweiser, when they bought it up, and they sold all that property off. And it was a good chunk of the city in Portland, and then they just turned it into Yuppieville.
Yeah, Doug. That was the other thing. Rat Center Memphis, as we called it, out at Millington. They would serve you in an enlisted club. If you had a uniform on, you got served.
really?
Yeah.
Now that couldn't go wrong ever.
Well, and back in those days, you had to have a Liberty card to get off base, which there were a whole bunch of clubs off base, quote unquote, where you kept your civilian clothes. So you'd get your Liberty card, go to your club, which, gee, strangely enough, seemed to be owned, a lot of them owned by the wives of the CO of the base, where you could change into civvies and then go downtown. Otherwise, you had to go out in whites or blues, depending on time of year.
It was funny.
So it's a lot cheaper to just go over to the enlisted club, quarter a beer, get drunk off your ass, and crawl back to your barracks or a barracks, whatever.
Yeah, they didn't proof anybody when I was in the Air Force at any of the clubs.
Yeah.
You showed up. Obviously, you were an adult. You could drink.
Yep.
They didn't even care if you're in uniform. But talking about going on Liberty, I had a friend who was in the Navy. I can never remember the name of the amphibia he was on. I don't know if it was the Iwo Jima or whatever. But whenever they'd pull into port, as soon as he got Liberty, he'd rent a car and he would drive 50 to 60 miles away.
Oh, yeah.
So now nobody knows you're from the U.S. Navy. No one's taking advantage of you.
Yeah.
Bundaberg is my favorite ginger beer. And
They're good. I've had that.
I was trying bourbons, and Tom, who's on here somewhere,
Yep.
said to mix the Bundaberg the bourbon with the Bundaberg. And oh my God. That's what kicked off my liking for bourbon.
Yeah.
Was a Kentucky Mule. Whoo!
Yeah, Tom.
Those things are dangerous.
Navy is notorious for that too. Bars in the barracks, one way or the other, with or without approval. Navy was known, Special Aviation Navy was known for their clubs that were unofficial, that were in the barracks.
No. Clubs of drinking in the barracks?
Who would think it's such
the
a
brass,
thing?
the brass nut and calf, and there was the fly trap and sig, and there were a couple others scattered around the world. But the brass nut and the fly trap were kind of famous because of the things that might go on there, because any drink was 50 cents.
Oh, that's dangerous.
Well, we have airplanes, we fly all over. So if we had somebody going on a jet down to Italy, they brought back wine, they brought back grappa, they brought back amaretto, various things. Had somebody going to Puerto Rico, they'd bring back rum. We had people going to Scotland, they'd bring back scotch.
Oh, God.
For good prices.
Oh, God.
So all drinks are 50 cents, but the entire ceiling of the club was covered with patches. That was one of the things, was you took your patch off and somehow you had to get it on the ceiling. That got you a free drink.
So there were a lot of patches on the ceiling.
Oh, yeah. There were layers of patches on the ceiling.
That ceiling was carpeted patches.
Yeah. Much like the O Club in QB, same thing.
Somebody was posting about 8 new Kentucky Mule and 8 new anthologies. Tom, that first Fool's Con, when I wound up with 3 anthologies, that's Tom.
Yeah.
See, he's the guilty party.
He is the guilty party. He's
we used to have beer machines in the barracks. That's another good point.
big, friendly, and just start handing you little red cups. And they all tasted so good.
Well, that and the fact that
And then I woke, and then
John might have been switching them out on you.
don't ever get Tom Rognerby, Tully, and Jonna plotting, because you will wake up with having had the entire Chinese military marching across your tongue in their sock feet, and 4 anthologies deep.
Yeah, North Texas move. Kentucky Mule chased by 3 anthologies. That's about right.
Oh, we had planned for 6 anthologies. We're up to 8.
Yeah.
Wow.
In 2023, we planned for anthology every 2 months.
I need to get and write a few more stories. I got one. I've got 2 that are half done. I need to sit down and finish. I'm just trying to get through some currently paying.
Flat Cat Press. No, man, I haven't heard of that one. Kermit, I think they stopped the rum ration in the Navy around World War One.
British Navy still does it.
Yeah.
Brits, I have to say, Brits.
Aussies do.
Brits still do it.
I was lucky enough to be invited on board the Parramatta down in Australia for Remembrance Day a few years ago.
And how hard was the stagger home afterwards?
And it was a while because after the ceremony, we adjourned to the bar on the ship to have a toast.
That sounds so civilized.
Which was followed by another toast.
Another toast.
And then you got to toast the
Yeah.
toaster.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah. And then you got to respond. The responding toasts. And,
Yes.
And then for the people who can't be there, they each deserve a toast.
Yes, exactly.
It hurt. Almost as bad as being driven home by the Australian cops because I was too drunk to drive.
Thank God, because the MPs have thrown your butt in the clank.
Well, the problem was that I was drinking with my Australian counterpart, submariner, and he called his brother, or told his brother who was with us, fix it, we're too drunk to drive. And the brother staggered out and got on the phone to somebody, and 6 cops showed up. Keys. I'm trying frantically to remember the number for the console because I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to jail here. And handed my keys, and they walked me out, put me in a police car. What hotel are you staying at? At the Hilton in
I
Perth.
don't remember.
They drive me to the Hilton. They throw me out.
If they slow down long enough to fling you out of
The other cop brings my car, hands the keys to the concierge, and says, "Don't give them back to him until tomorrow." The next morning, I'm talking to my counterpart, and I'm going, "What the frick happened last night?" He says, "Oh, I forgot to tell you, my brother's the head of the Western Australia Police Force." That would have been nice to know.
tightened my shot group for the first half hour after that.
Yes. Yeah, the Aussies are a bit different. Yes, it was actual protect and serve. I'm sure they were protecting them from us from them, or them from us, one or the other. That was working with the Aussies and the Brits was extremely interesting because they have a very unusual way of handling things.
Jeez, that's putting it mildly.
Yeah. And actually, Foster's isn't bad, but they consider
Foster's, yuck!
it's better than VB. They consider VB the Navy beer down in Australia because it's that bad. But there was a place down in Frio that had some really good beer. It was a little microbrewery right down on the waterfront. And that place could get you in trouble very quickly. 175 days into my 10th can. Now they're saying 280 days. Evan, that's not good. No. The toss is not bad. Yeah. Speaking of banning guns, Australia's apparently trying that. Or not Australia.
Oregon.
Huh?
Oregon.
Canada and Oregon.
In Oregon now, you can't buy a gun without a permit. Can't get the permit if you don't know how to use the gun. But none of that matters because the system to give out the permits doesn't exist.
Nor does the training.
Yeah. And
There's
so
no certified training plan.
and nobody knows when, if ever, there will be, because the police are saying we're not building it because we don't want to do this. We don't want to deal with this. This wasn't our idea. The whole thing is just a ban on guns and magazines. It's unconstitutional as all get out, but this is Oregon. It's the Ninth Circus. Good luck getting any traction in a court anywhere because no one follows the law up there.
Yeah, then after that was a train that went by. We're a block from the railroad lines. The whole thing with Oregon is the fact that it goes into effect on the 8th of December. So people are frantically trying to buy guns before that, but there are so many people that are trying to buy guns, they've now overloaded the system. So they can't get the checks back.
Yeah. Also, a number of the large gun stores in Oregon, like Sportsman's Warehouse and all that, they're not going to sell guns anymore. They're done.
Yeah.
As soon as this goes into effect, they're not going to sell guns in Oregon anymore. They're just pulling out of that part of the business. So, for all those, and as someone said, I'm sure there were people out there who said, oh, this isn't going to affect me. Oh, and shotguns are banned in Oregon now.
Yeah.
Because if you take the half shells and put them in a shotgun, you can load more than 10 rounds, and that's against the law.
Yep.
So anything that can hold more than 10 rounds, and it doesn't matter if it's the right ammo, it's illegal.
Yep. So
unless you're grandfathered.
So all your
There's Oregon.
Oregon.
Yeah.
All your old
have to have a certificate to buy. Apparently, you have to have a certificate to buy them,
and they don't.
Which you can't. Which they don't have a procedure for it, nor training.
And
which also makes your
tell
old
me that wasn't part of the plan.
Marlin Model 39 is illegal because you can put more than 10 rounds of 22 short in a Marlin 39.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I knew it was bad, Evan. I didn't realize it was that bad. 40,000 behind in background checks. Yeah, so even if somebody put the money down today, they won't get a gun because it goes into effect on the 8th.
For a year.
No, probably ever, because as someone said, they're just going to keep delaying, putting the system in.
Yeah.
And it's constitutionally
because
ridiculous.
They figured out that they can't run the law.
Yeah.
So they're just going to dance around instead of trying to run the law.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is, all it takes is one judge in Oregon to stand up and say, this law is unconstitutional, I'm voiding it. And in Oregon, that voids a law.
Really?
Yeah.
Anything that is voted on by the people, just about any judge can stand up and say, I'm voiding this law. And okay, it's voided, because they did that. The leftist judges, when I was living there, did that every time any kind of a right-wing thing won. Didn't matter if it won 90% of the population. There were a number of tax things and other stuff. There's some judge out in, East Bumfuck would sit there and say, oh, this is unconstitutional. And everybody goes, see, it's not legal anymore. And boom, they get thrown out.
Yeah, Joel,
Wow.
that is there was a power station in North Carolina taken out by strategic shots.
Yeah, they took out a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah. And very similar to what happened in California a couple of years ago.
I think with that one, just look at who's been recently fired, and you'll probably figure out who it was.
But
That's the way it's been. Thanks.
yeah, somebody that knew how to shoot, knew exactly what pieces to hit in that power station, and long distance, one round into a transformer that's full of PCBs, you drain it, the entire power station shuts down.
Yeah.
Transformers are big targets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On that note,
We are about out of time. Buy the book. It's good.
good folks, buy his book.
Buy the book. Buy the book.
And thank all of y'all for hanging with us today. We really do appreciate it. We'll be back on Thursday, and we'll try this again. Yeah, hit the like button. Yeah, we always appreciate it. Dr. Tung's 3D House of Paperback Sales.
Yes.
All right, folks. Remember, don't sweat the petty stuff. Don't pet the sweaty stuff.
Be safe, guys.
Be
Now we
safe,
can
and we'll
get
see you
lunch.
later. Bye-bye.
Lunch.
Food.
Good lunch.
Yes, lunch.